Well, hello. This is Glenn Greenidge and Tom Pope, and we are coming to you live today and talking about the breakdown in communication when it comes to police or policing and agencies. And as we look, um, police are not always, more police are not always the answer. So, Tom, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, once again, this is part of Community and Social Change, our Facebook page. Visit us. Um, but my thoughts are that whenever we hear something about the need for extra police or fighting crime, it seems like the world is ending. Um, Crime is rampant. What is the news? The news tells us um, we have a breaking story, gunfire in the subway. We have a breaking story. We've got gunfire on a bus. Is that really the emphasis of what journalism can do? Is this a real picture of what's happening with crime? Is it rising? Um, what are your thoughts?
Well, crime is a very complicated conversation, and I think that we tend to think one dimensionally with crime, that adding more police are always the answer. We've got lots of degrees of different crimes that are going on that don't necessarily need a police officer, for example. We've got homeless situations which need um, social services. We've got lots of people who are having episodes and of breaking reality, and they need someone to talk to.
I think you're talking about the reasons. I think we'll get into that in our next show, which is why is crime rising between now and, let's say, last year. Um, I think we should look at the problem of the communication today.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
is a three-part um, series dealing with um, the rise in crime, if there is one, and also um, maybe community services can be better used. Um, when we're talking about the bad communication, um, just look at the recent mayoralty race in New York.
Sure.
Adams wanted to show that we're going to have more police and we're going to do a better job with police. Is that the answer? Um, I'm really thinking about, um, let's look at this if this was a health issue. You have a family member in the hospital. Are you more concerned with flooding the bedside with 20 doctors because that's how you cure the illness? Is that the answer to curing the illness? I mean, isn't the key factor something else like finding out information?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And you're right. When you look at communication, we see a lot of misinformation, wrong communication, not getting to the essence of what really is the heart of the matter. And we have a lot of that with interagency communication, um, be it the 311 call gets the first, or the 911, and don't properly communicate to the right agency, or their procedures aren't very clear, so they're left to make a decision on their own, which may not necessarily bring the right set of services to the situation. So there are lots of areas.
Oh, let's look at some basics. Is crime really rising? It may be rising between now and last year and 2 years ago. However, the communication from most news agencies is that this is the worst crime ever in history. Well, let's take a look. I have some figures from the New York. Here's an example of bad communication. Whenever you hear someone talk about a comparison, they compare this year with last year. Is that the best way to look at a comparison? How about looking at the number of murders last year at 488? Well, in 2001, it was 649.
Wow.
In 1988, it was 629, a little bit less. But in 1993, it was 1,927.
Huge difference.
In 1990, it was 2,262. No one is talking about a 10-year comparison. That's bad communication.
Mm-hmm.
Let me add to this. Some of these figures are in the, let me see, this is a division of NBC. NBC has an outlet. Bear with me one moment. And LXTV is an Emmy Award winning production company. It's a division of NBC, and it has these figures on their website. Why does NBC have those figures available so you can see them on the website? But none of the affiliates will ever talk about this. That's bad communication. That is not journalism.
Yes, I would certainly agree with you on that, because it doesn't give you the perspective, the proper perspective. So you hear the numbers from last year to this year, and oh, but wait a minute. When you look back those 10 years, you really see crime has gone down, not gone up as has been battering around in the local news stations. So you're right. You're absolutely right. There is a lack of communication going on in terms of really what is going on. And I think it's got to be driven by the sensationalism of, here's breaking news. Let's zoom in on the latest calamity.
Another example of bad communication. I recently heard of a shooting by a policeman of someone who seemed to be dangerous. According to the news information, the police tried to stop the person, was unable to, and had to shoot. Well, when we discover that trying to stop the person was basically put the gun down, put the gun down. Are you going to diffuse a situation if that's all you say?
Right, right.
Now,
there's no relationship. There's no
that
connection.
detail,
Yeah.
that detail is not mentioned. Many people will realize maybe this could have been diffused differently if they found out that was all that was done.
Yeah.
But that information is not shared with the public.
Again, your point well taken. You know, what are the ways of de-escalating? And let's be clear, I don't know that police are always the best to do that. Do they have the training? You know, it's important to note that these skill sets have to be more than just put the gun down.
The massacre on the subway was described as a massacre. And yet very little information is related that many of the police who rushed to the scene had problems because the surveillance cameras did not work. They couldn't use their communication system. They had to ask passengers who were injured to use their cell phones. One report even says that there was a lack of healthcare respondents because that part of the budget was cut.
Wow. Wow.
So again, the idea that we need more police, well, we had a lot of police there. Was that the answer? But no one is criticizing that.
Yes, this conversation communication is plaguing our society. You know, and if we look outside of crime, we'll see it as well as inside of crime and how the agencies are communicating. So it's we've got to tighten up our access. You know, we have all this technology, and you would think with this technology that communication has gotten better, but that's not necessarily always the case.
I think we need better communication in going into next week's topic. Why is crime rising between last year and this year, or the past few years? Why is that happening? We need to have better information systems and train people differently.
Absolutely. I think that that's an important piece of any of this resolution when we look at the complexity of our society, and if we're looking to solve any kind of solutions inside of this complex society, communication is got to be one of the key facilitators for moving or resolving the criticalness of any situation that arises.
Oh, one other example. If you hear basic stories about Mayor Adams, his focus is on more police and training. However, Mayor Adams does have some plans that involve community services. I doubt if very many people have heard about it.
True.
Why isn't that communicated?
Well, my suspicion is that that's still being worked out. You know, with the new transition administration, it takes some time to communicate the changes that are being asked by the mayor on down. But yet, some of these things have been in place from the previous mayor. So we'll see how effective those lines of communication are, and how effective the change is in the direction. And hopefully we'll see more than just conversation about it.
I'd like to accept that idea that the communication is limited because things are still being worked out. Well, things are still being worked out, and how many police are going to be at a scene, but that's broadcast, that's emphasized, even though it's not totally worked out. So why do we have communication available in one area but not the other?
Not the other. Yeah. Yeah. It's a question that I think needs to be asked more often than it is currently, because it could highlight the situation. Yeah. So we've got a preview. So you're going to give us a preview of the next couple.
Well, I think the next show we'll be talking about why. Why has some crime started to rise? Where's this coming from? Is it because of frustration from COVID? Is it because that the Republicans in Congress have limited access to childcare, to benefits that should be given to people during the epidemic? Is it because of more emphasis on prisons and not bringing people back into the community? Is it because of an atmosphere of hate that has happened because of the recent presidential administration?
So, folks, tune in next week. We'll let you know. We'll have some discussions, and certainly check us out on Facebook. Leave a comment, leave a question. Let us know if this is an interesting topic for you going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.